Hello, friends. There's a storm in the air. The geopolitical game around Poland and Ukraine is starting to take on new, wild criminal dimensions. Let's look at 4 stories of how a domestic conflict, foolish border aggression, and professional international espionage are intertwined into one tight knot. Please give a like and subscribe to the channel right now. Friends, a like in support of aerodynamics. Huge thanks to everyone who does it. Simple actions take just 2 seconds. Thank you for your support. Yes, watch until the end. We'll be making some interesting conclusions. Cynical, but to the point. So I have to say right away, crime, like stupidity, is something that goes beyond national boundaries. Stupidity and crime have neither a passport nor a place of residence, nor an eye shape, nor any kind of interesting hairstyle. When a particular citizen commits an offense is not their ethnic code. Put simply, this is a manifestation of his personal choice and the lack of anything inside his skull. We strongly condemn any manifestations of violence, lawlessness, or xenophobia, no matter who is behind them. The Poles broke the law, and I believe they should be held accountable. The Ukrainians broke the law and should be held accountable. Under a normal, healthy legal system, everyone should be equal. That's my opinion. Write in the comments if I'm wrong. That's it. And any attempts to turn a criminal matter into a national issue, well, you understand. Let's get to the point. Sorry for the long intro. The first test. A tragedy in Bytov, right? When domestic absurdity affects international relations. Let's start with the darkest, most high-profile and tragic story that happened in the quiet town of Bytov. It would seem like a classic plot for a crime chronicle from the Cherchez la Femme series. For those who haven't been to France and don't know French, let me explain. Cherchez la Femme means look for the woman. But in today's reality, that's just the surface. Everything turns into a political thriller. So what's the situation? Evening street light, and 3 citizens of Ukraine, young guys, 28, 30, and 37 years old. The emotional tension is high, and actually one of these gentlemen, they were drinking alcoholic beverages with a Polish man and his 44-year-old companion. The Polish man was about 10 years younger, and one of the Ukrainians was showing overly persistent attention to this lady. Well, what can you do? Actually, yes, the Polish man was 36 years old, and you understand, in a situation when advances are rejected and a man's ego is hurt, the most primitive animal instinct kicks in. In short, a fight broke out. Or rather, it wasn't even a fight, it was more like a beating, because it was 3 against 1, a classic scenario. There's really nothing much to comment on. The Polish man was beaten so badly that he died in the hospital from his injuries. The woman was also wounded there, but thank God she survived. The brave Polish police acted quickly. The 3 were held in pretrial detention for 3 months. The prosecutor in Bytov, Ms. Malgorzata Jackovskaya-Boryk, is already preparing a reclassification. The case was, a fight and battery, assault, but now it's battery resulting in death. Well, actually, the forensic experts clearly stated that death occurred as a result of the beating. And this is where things get really interesting. The prosecution did everything they could to put out this fire. I want to emphasize that the conflict started as a personal dispute. Nationality didn't matter here. No one was shouting xenophobic slogans. Well, that's understandable, right? Because if you admit that there was some kind of interethnic context, well, even without that, the genie was already out of the bottle. Yes, everything is already burning like dry straw. In the system in Poland, yes, workers are needed. The economy stalls without them. But controlling the behavior of those workers, well, is becoming more difficult, right? Well, it got to the point where the incident had to be personally addressed by the Ukrainian ambassador to Poland, Vasyl Bodnar. As usual, he made an extremely tough statement. We strongly condemn it. There are no excuses. The guilty must face severe punishment, right? But this is not just a gesture of politeness. This is an attempt by Ukrainian diplomacy to smooth things over before ordinary Poles start asking their government some very uncomfortable questions. Although they are already asking them, what's going on? Ukrainians are beating up Poles. What is this? They're just killing them. Well, that's how it looks at first glance, yes. But let's be honest, several hundred such crimes are recorded. According to the police, about 500 per year, yes. Eventually, Ukrainians were bound to get involved in this situation from one side or the other, as cynical as it sounds. Well, that's how it is, in my opinion. Yes, the crime is terrible. Of course, we condemn it. This should never happen anywhere in a decent society. But should we really bring nationality into this drunken brawl? Well, I don't think so. In the same way, I'll say that if Poles had beaten up a Ukrainian and didn't say something like, "You Bandera whore," then I think it would be the same situation. Write in the comments if you think I'm wrong. Maybe I'm mistaken. All right, let's move on to the second story. The case of Ilya. The case of Ilya. In my opinion, I'll repeat, what we saw in Bytov was just a stupid everyday crime, domestic rage. The next story is clearly the work of the intelligence services, where you have to pay for human stupidity. Well, in general, they just used him as a disposable pawn. An indictment was sent to the district court in Wrocław against 18-year-old Ukrainian Ilya K. The guy came to Poland probably looking for a better life, but ended up facing the prospect of spending the rest of his life in a Polish prison. The investigation, led by the Internal Security Agency, uncovered as many as 47 criminal counts the boy was working for the Russian intelligence services. Moreover, he worked systematically from November 2024 to August 2025 until he was finally caught. What was he doing? He carried out sophisticated ideological provocations. He would take a spray can and go desecrate Polish and Jewish holy sites. He wrote slogans like "Glory to UPA," painted red and black flags, and did this on monuments to the heroes of the Warsaw Ghetto and on monuments to the victims of the Volhynia massacre in Domostav. Do you remember we talked about this? The memorial to those killed by the hands of OUN UPA in Wrocław, the building of the Polish Academy of Sciences. In short, the logic of those behind this is both brilliant and shockingly cynical. They take an ethnic Ukrainian, a minor, pay him money. He doesn't have much going on in his head. He can't even fry himself an egg, let alone carry out some kind of personal conscious act. And he desecrates monuments to the victims of the Ukrainian nationalist. With Ukrainian slogans too. What's the goal? That's as obvious as 2 + 2 makes 4. To provoke rage in the Poles, a blind hatred toward everything Ukrainian, toward all Ukrainians without exception. And generally to try to destroy the allied relations between Warsaw and Kiev. By the way, it wasn't just about the paint on the walls. The young idiot went as far as terrorism on a national scale, yes. He was preparing an assassination attempt for August 2025, or at least a provocation, yes, against the president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki. During the military parade, Ilya was supposed to direct, well, it's not clear, some kind of drone, either with explosives or without explosives, but still. The drone was supposed to be, yes, above the head of state's car. Well, the guy was coordinating in detail with his handler about the budget, buying the device, the motorcade routes, and ways to avoid detection, but he didn't make it, he got caught. Ah, friends, you might ask how he was recruited, although of course Russian bots will definitely comment now. What's going on? No, it's Putin's fault again. Well, who else? Using regular internet messengers, no secret meetings, passwords, or disguises, just a Telegram ad, a side job offer, and payment in cryptocurrency via shady exchanges in Russia or China. And an 18-year-old fool, for easy money, goes for something that could get him a life sentence. At first, he confessed to everything. Then he changed his mind and said, no, I refuse. I didn't say that. But the wheels of justice can't be stopped now. He's facing 10 years. From 10 years to life. So here's the point. The security services use cheap labor as cannon fodder in a hybrid war, and this fool pays for it with his only life without even realizing it. That's why I advise you to read your kids' messages. Because you think your child is the smartest, the most wonderful, the purest, but as you can see, they'll do it for money. And you have to admit, not everyone is well off, yes, and a kid wants an iPhone and some new sneakers too. And parents can't buy him an iPhone every year for $7,000. So here's the thing. In short, I really doubt it. Yeah, now there will definitely be comments like, oh, those Ukrainian nationalists, they've been drawing OUN UPA and red and black flags with spray paint since childhood. Yeah, right, damn. I'll say it again. Many can't even fry an egg for themselves. What OUN UPA are we even talking about? They don't even know what that is. If they don't Google it or ask GPT, they won't even ask. So, friends, we have another story. So, we started talking about Volyn, about historical wounds. Here's the third story, which logically follows from the previous one. Bydgoszcz. The police detained a citizen of Ukraine, 23 years old. Fool, it's almost time for you to head to the front. The guy decided that he was a great blogger, a media giant. And during the Poles' march in memory of the victims of the Volyn massacre, this young man recorded and posted a video on social media. The video was filled with foul language, dirty insults, and most importantly, under criminal law, public calls to commit a crime against one of the participants of the march. He says, now we're going to do this and that to you, all sorts of nonsense. I won't repeat it. Yes. The reaction of the Polish state was immediate and exemplary. No long talks, no suspended sentences. He was arrested, charged, accused, border guards were involved, and deported immediately. He is likely already at the training camp. Here, the Minister of Internal Affairs, Marcin Kervinsky, even took the trouble to write an angry post on the social network X. Zero tolerance for aggression and hatred. That is, well, I think you get it. Zero tolerance for aggression and hatred. Well, this is how it works. It works both ways. That is both towards Poles and towards Ukrainians. I hope the police will respond firmly, regardless of citizenship. Yes, I have a Ukrainian passport, but I completely, absolutely do not approve, to put it mildly, of such behavior. Guys, you've already arrived, so just sit quietly now. When you start opening your mouth about this whole story and even threatening Polish citizens on their own land, damn man, you'll be going home very quickly. Without the right to return. I don't know why that's his secret, but I only have two options. Either the guy has some serious mental issues or he just did it for money. Because, well, a person who has at least something in their skull wouldn't do something like that. Alright, next, for dessert, or rather the cherry on top, a piece of news that perfectly illustrates that Warsaw's patience has officially run out, not only towards spies and murderers, but also towards ordinary lawbreakers. The border guards from Ruda, Ślęska and Zapole have set up a real deportation conveyor belt for Ukrainians who, guess what, they've already served their sentences in Polish prisons. There you go. Well, the situation here is kind of two-sided, of course. Yes, it seems like the person has already served time for their crime. Why ruin their life now, right? Maybe, well, write in the comments, maybe I'm wrong. No. I just don't know, because it seems to me that everything is very individual, right? Someone stole pistachios from Biedronka and they got 3 years in prison and then they were deported. Someone really did commit an offense and those people shouldn't be excused or forgiven. So what do we have? Who was deported? Rybnik, 22 years old. The guy publicly promoted totalitarian regimes, fascism, communism, and he incited hatred, right? Along the way, he was also destroying other people's property. Well, obviously, that's it. Kicked out. Banned from entering the Schengen area for 8 years next. A man, 59 years old. He served time in a prison in Nisa for managing to cause a fatal car accident. Next, a 39-year-old man. He's younger than me. By the way, my birthday was yesterday. If you haven't yet, feel free to congratulate me in the comments. He also served time there for drunk driving. He was also caught with a fake Ukrainian driver's license. As soon as these citizens left the prison with release papers, border guards immediately seized them, put them in a special vehicle at the checkpoint, and handed them to Ukrainian authorities. That's it. You'll return in 5 years, but it's not certain since your draft age. Most likely you'll go to the front. In short, if we put all these pieces together, friends, into one systematic analysis, we get a very harsh picture. It's the period of romantic embraces. All that mutual forgiveness between Kyiv and Warsaw is officially over. The Polish state, yes, is watching this criminal activity, these spy operations, right under the president's nose. And a very small part of the migrants completely refuse to respect the law, the laws, the history of the host country. All of this shifts into a hard defensive mode. Warsaw switches to a besieged fortress mode, and signals are sent to everyone all at once. Migrants are told directly, if you cause trouble or get involved in politics, you'll be sent home in a prison wagon. To its own citizens, we have the situation under control, and to external forces as well. Yes. We see your cheap tricks of recruiting fools through Telegram, and we will put a stop to it. Well, ahead lies strict legal control, a cleanup of the information space, and total filtering of all newcomers. That's how it is, comrades. By the way, today we also had something come up on Facebook. Honestly, I don't even know why I go there, God, to that keyboard. Cesspool, about Ukrainians too, all these crimes. I keep track of them. And I tried to get my thoughts across there. Well, every story has its own nuances. And of course, I absolutely do not justify anyone or anything. But just to put the emphasis in the right places, and someone threw a great argument at me. You have no right to speak in Poland. You're not even Polish. I say, all right, I can show you my argument. He says, you know where you can shove your argument. I know you bought it in the Kiev subway, just like all your diplomas, just like your doctors bought all their diplomas. Well, I realized that there was no point in continuing the conversation. I'm on Facebook almost every day, you know, and in the past month, I actually managed to get my point across. You know, the person just listened to me, replied without any insults, well, you know, like fuck off to Ukraine, Curva. I managed to do that exactly twice. Everything else is just a dumb wall, and it's unclear whether they're bots or real people. So take care of yourselves, take care of your school kids, friends, that's all for now. See you next time.